Kizito was the kind of student everyone believed had everything figured out. He was sharp, kind, and always smiling in class. Teachers trusted him. Friends admired him. But behind that calm smile lived a quiet storm that no one else could see. Each night, after dinner, he would sit by his small wooden desk. The bulb above flickered, casting soft shadows across the pages of his open notebook. Pens, highlighters, and sticky notes lay scattered around, like little soldiers ready for battle. But despite the scene, the battle never really began. He would open his textbook, take a deep breath, and whisper, "Okay, tonight, I'll really focus." For 5 minutes, his eyes stayed on the page. Then his phone would buzz. One message, one notification, one distraction, and before he knew it, 20 minutes had passed. He'd feel that sting of guilt again. The same voice whispering, "You've done it again, Kizito. You've wasted another night." He'd look out the window at the stars and promise himself, tomorrow will be different. But when tomorrow came, it wasn't. The same cycle repeated. Hope in the morning, disappointment at night. And slowly, the sparkle in his eyes began to fade. At school, he'd watch others, the ones who always seemed to have everything under control. They turned in assignments early. They asked questions in class. They looked so confident. Meanwhile, Kizito felt like he was drowning in slow motion, watching others swim past him. He started thinking maybe he just wasn't built for this. Maybe his brain worked differently. Maybe he just didn't have it. One afternoon, after another frustrating study session, he decided to take a walk around campus. The air was heavy with the smell of rain. Leaves clung to the pavement. And as he turned down a quiet hallway, he saw the old janitor, Mr. Teo, slowly sweeping the floor. He'd seen him countless times before, always doing the same thing. Sweep. Step. Sweep again. Always humming some old tune under his breath. Kizito stopped and asked, "Sir, don't you ever get tired of doing the same thing every single day?" The old man looked up, smiled softly, and said, "Of course I get tired. But if I stop, the dust wins." That night, those words echoed in Kizito's mind. If I stop, the dust wins. He sat down at his desk again, staring at his books. This time, he didn't aim to study for 3 hours or cover 5 chapters. He simply whispered, 15 minutes. That's all. And he began. It wasn't perfect. His thoughts still wandered. His phone still tempted him. But he kept coming back. Every time he drifted off, he reminded himself, don't let the dust win. 15 minutes became 30. 30 became an hour. For the first time, he started finishing chapters, connecting ideas, seeing progress. The results didn't show overnight, but something inside him shifted. The fear, the guilt, the doubt, they didn't disappear, but they no longer controlled him. He learned to start small and stay steady. Over the next few months, Kizito began noticing changes. He no longer studied to impress his teachers or prove his worth. He studied because he enjoyed the quiet rhythm of progress, because he liked that feeling of learning something new every day. He began waking up earlier, not out of pressure, but peace. Mornings became his secret. When the world was still asleep, he'd sit by the window with a warm cup of tea, the pages before him glowing softly in the early light. And as the days passed, he realized something important. Success isn't loud. It's quiet. It's built in small acts of consistency when no one else is watching. He stopped comparing himself to others, stopped chasing impossible perfection. Instead, he focused on what he could control, one page, one paragraph, one small victory at a time. There were days he still struggled, days when his mind felt heavy and tired. On those days, he didn't quit. He simply adjusted. He'd take a walk, breathe, then return. Because he'd learned that rest is part of the process, not a sign of weakness. He began keeping a small journal, a record of his study days. At the end of each day, he'd write one simple question. Did I show up today? And even when the answer was only for 10 minutes, he'd smile, because 10 minutes was still better than 0. Weeks turned into months. Exams approached. His classmates were tense, anxious, exhausted. But Kizito felt calm, not because he knew everything, but because he trusted his process. He had built a quiet strength, one that came from discipline, not luck. The night before his final exam, he didn't pull an all-nighter. He closed his books early, looked at the stars outside his window, and whispered, I've done enough. Then he slept peacefully. The next morning, he walked to the exam hall with steady steps. No panic, No rush, just calm confidence. As he took his seat, he thought about the old janitor and smiled. Hours later, when the results were finally posted, Kizito found his name near the top. His heart swelled, but not with pride, with gratitude. Gratitude for the struggle, the slow days, the small beginnings. Later that evening, he found Mr. Teo sweeping the same hallway again. Kizito walked up to him, tears glistening in his eyes, and said, "I didn't let the dust win." The old man paused, leaned on his broom, and smiled. "That's how you win at life, son. You don't fight the dust once. You fight it every day." From that day forward, Kizito carried those words everywhere. Whenever he faced hard days, in school, work, or life, he reminded himself, don't let the dust win. He shared the story with his younger siblings, his friends, even strangers who felt stuck. And every time he told it, he saw that same spark of hope flicker in their eyes. Maybe the lesson isn't about working harder, but staying steady. Because real change doesn't happen in a single day. It happens in the quiet moments, when no one's watching, and you choose not to give up. If Kizito's story touched something in your heart, tell me, what's one thing you want to stay consistent with starting today? Share it in the comments, because your story might be the spark someone else needs to keep going. And if you believe in stories that heal, teach, and inspire, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next tale that might just change the way you see your life.